Welcome to Greater Good Radio Hawaii, where leaders inspire leaders. Greater Good Radio Hawaii is dedicated to social entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Evan Leong, and with me is my co-host, Carrie Leong.
Today's guest is Dennis Francis, president and publisher for the Star-Bulletin and MidWeek newspapers. Please welcome to Greater Good Radio, Dennis Francis. Welcome to our show, Dennis.
Thank you for inviting me.
So as president and publisher, what is it that you do on a daily basis?
Well, it's not real complicated. I manage the daily Star-Bulletin newspaper and the two midweek weekly newspapers that we publish.
Is that busy doing two publications? I mean, it's kind of two, but it seems like three because you have two midweeks a week.
Right. Well, we publish the bulletin 7 days a week, and then we have a lot of other products that go along with it. Once we started, obviously, publishing the first midweek, the second one became quite natural. We use a lot of the same staff as we did the first one, so we have a few days break in between to give us some time to publish.
So can you take us on the path of what led you to this position today?
What led me to this position? How far down this path would you like to go?
Where are you from?
Where I'm from? Well, I was born in Kentucky, and there's two parts of Kentucky. The one part where I was from is the Appalachia side, the eastern side, more in the coal mining area. My father was a coal miner, and I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. We moved there when I was, I guess, basically an infant, and started the newspaper business there in Ohio at a very, very small daily.
You started as a writer or as a reporter?
I've always been on the business side. Started in the circulation side. Actually, when I was, I guess, about 19, 20 years old, I was going to school at a small community college, and back in that era, money was tight, and we were one of those families that didn't qualify for financial assistance, but we didn't obviously have a lot of money either. So as money became tight, I answered an ad in the local daily newspaper for an entry-level management position that we all see from businesses throughout that offer those kinds of positions, and I applied and got the job. And
how old were you when you did that?
I think I was 20, I believe. That's so long ago. It's hard for me to remember, but. And I continued going to school for a few more months during that time, and was probably working 75, 80 hours a week at this new position. And I knew that was for me because I really liked it. It was really enjoyable, and I ended up being one of those college dropouts because I loved the career path that I saw. And
what was that position? Because you said entry level, but entry level at 80 hours? I mean, that's a lot.
Well, I'm probably exaggerating. It's probably more like 70. But the title was...
That was back when they can get away with 70, 80 hours.
Yeah, well, they had their own problems with the labor issue as it came up later. But the title was district manager, and basically it was just a supervisory position of all of your contractors and the carriers and those kinds of things.
And then how'd you end up in Hawaii?
Well, I received my first promotion when one of our other executives left Ohio and went to South Carolina, and I was still fairly young at that time. I was probably 21 or 22 years old, and mentioned that there was this young guy back in Ohio who might be good for this management position in South Carolina, which is where he was. And I was pretty excited to get that first phone call of seeing my career move, and wasn't sure what my next step was, and accepted the position, and was there for about 6 years, and then went on to Washington, D.C., and another management position in the business side. And I was only there actually for about a year, and then joined the Gannett Corporation in 1987, and that was in Burlington, Vermont. I was there for a few years, and one snowy November day when it was getting dark at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a phone call from our corporate headquarters that wanted to interview me in a few days for the vice president of circulation position at the old Hawaii newspaper agency. And it was 17 degrees below zero outside, and they said Hawaii, and the rest is history.
You travel more than people in the military.
How did they get your name, though? Were you applying to different locations?
Well, from Vermont, or we're originally from Ohio.
South Carolina?
Those were the days, and they're still quite popular. But I was once you get involved with headhunters and executive recruiters, they kind of have your name nationally, and they start They always keep you're a revenue source for them, so they always keep calling you to. After a couple of years you've been somewhere, they want you to go somewhere else, so they can get a fee again. So.
Was it culture shock for you when you first got here to Hawaii?
Oh, yeah, I'd never been.
Mm-hmm.
That was at a time where they wouldn't pay for or allow you to come to Hawaii to check it out, so to speak. Even though it was a big promotion, the sexiness of it all was just being considered and getting the position, and you just had to. There wasn't a lot of internet back then, so you had to pretty much.
And the cost is much higher here, right?
It was considerably higher, yeah. And I was young, so you didn't have hardly any money that he had set aside, and it wouldn't have mattered anyway because I wouldn't have had that kind of money to put into the home, because back in the late 80s, it was the first real big housing boom that they had in Hawaii, so the costs were already quite high.
Did you think about going home at that point?
No, never considered going home. When I got off the plane, it was 84 degrees, and we had a record in Vermont before I left where we had 12 or 13 straight days where the high never got above 0 Fahrenheit. So that was quite a difference, and I was happy to be in Hawaii and happy to get accustomed to the differences in culture and those kind of things. So it was quite an experience. It was quite a learning curve for the first year or so.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.